Hello.
Hello.
This week we read Rebel Without a Cause by Stuart Stern. I've never seen this movie, and John, you've never seen this movie either, right?
No, I've never seen it. And it was like a good pick because it's a classic film, right? That I think pretty much everyone should probably have seen. Like, we've all heard of it at least.
Exactly. It's one of those titles, too, that I never really thought about, like Rebel Without a Cause. Those are 4 words together that I never thought about the meaning of, but now after reading the script, I'm like, oh, it's quite literally that this is like a bit rebellious, but doesn't really have a reason to be.
Yeah, totally. It's all about that. I think they hit that note really well over and over again. I think that's partly why it stayed with us for so long.
Yeah, and to some extent might even be relevant today to maybe the millennial generation, in that a lot of us, I seriously think, myself included, kind of rebelled against maybe what our parental generation wanted for our futures because we wanted to.
Yeah, I think that the movie and the script, at least, is so relatable, partly because every teenager goes through this phase where they do rebel against their parents and against their family. And generally, it's rebelling just because we want independence. And, you know, some of our rebellion, even today, maybe this is going too deep into things, but some of our rebellion
let's go.
Can be purposeless, or at least maybe it's the other way around. We have a cause, but we're not rebelling enough. We're too complacent to rebel.
As in, like...
I think I'm judging basically the internet culture where we can post things online, and that's the extent of our participation.
Right. A little bit of a get up, but no stand up. I totally understand.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. So right away, just opening this script and seeing the cast of characters detailed at the beginning, I was like, what is this? So I assume that we can post a link of the script that we read in case anyone wants to kind of follow along and see what we were reading, and maybe they want to read it too. And in the beginning, it breaks down the main characters to the 2 leads' families. So Jim's family and Judy's family. And this kind of like vomit of who these characters are at the beginning of the script, I read through it and I thought it was interesting, but by the end of it, I could not retain any of the information because it was just too much too fast. So I do understand, in maybe since that time, why people have put this information into the body of the script as opposed to like just this vomit dump at the beginning.
That makes sense. I also thought that maybe there was too much detail for the characters, because sometimes I wouldn't find I related like the mother's actions to the mother that they described at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes maybe I felt that they were telling us this is the way people are, and maybe that's going to skew my vision of who this person is instead of feeling who that person is in their dialogue and their actions.
Absolutely. My favorite one was in Buzz's description when they say he was probably rejected by both parents. I was like, how non-committal of this writer. Like, I don't know. He's probably rejected. We'll just put that in there.
Very true.
And then also unconventionally, like going right into the script from there, there's no use of slug lines at all. So there's no interior, exterior throughout the script, which makes it read kind of more like prose, which I personally appreciated. Mm-hmm. I like that kind of easy reading style. I know that the interior exterior breaks up a script for me, and I just start like skimming over that, like not even reading those words anymore. So in this, I felt like every word I read, there was no skimming.
I agree. And I think even in the description of like the scenery or the actions of people, I think that was very prosy as well, that maybe this guy was a prose writer at some point.
Yeah.
Do you have the name of the scriptwriter?
Stuart Stern. He's just listed as an American screenwriter and most known for his screenplay Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, he wrote this really well. I really enjoyed the script.
Yeah.
I think there were some things that were products of their time. Like, I'm sure you'll agree the way that he describes Paul's caretaker.
Oh, yeah, the Negro woman. Plato's caretaker, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Judy and her father storyline, I thought was definitely dated, but also uncomfortable, at least on the page. So that's one thing that I'm very anxious to see on screen, to see if it's as uncomfortable as it reads.
Totally, yeah, very uncomfortable. The sexual implications of it.
Yeah.
As well as her description at the beginning, like she needs attention from everyone.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, her lack of attention is why she has trouble in life.
She invites attention of other men in order to punish her father.
Yeah. Another thing, I don't know if this was a product of his time or if like just those kids, just the kids going around causing trouble the way they do. Like, I don't know if that was something, maybe kids were like going around in little gangs terrorizing adults back in the day, but no kid would, at least not where we grew up, would do that today. Like, it would be weird.
Yeah, I mean, like, kids definitely went out and did stuff, like, as a group back in the day before the internet. I remember those times when you would go outside with your friends and just figure out something to do.
Yes.
But it was, yeah, I think we might just have grown up in maybe, like, a very safe neighborhood. I feel as if there was probably a lot more gang-related stuff in the areas that we were not living in. As privileged, I guess, as we were. This is so weird that I just remember this, but I remember, like, there were a bunch of kids from my school who used to go around, like, mooning people on the weekends. So they would, like, knock on your door and just have their pants down.
The afternoon moonings.
Yeah. That was, like, a terrorizing thing. I remember when it happened to me. It was very traumatic.
Okay. That happened to you? People mooned you just randomly from your school?
Yes, at our old house. I knocked on the door. And thank heavens it was me that... Thank heavens. I never say thank heavens. Thank God it was me that, like, answered the door and not my... Or not our dad or mom or you, like whoever. I don't know.
Right, because it's just these random kids.
Yeah, with their pants down.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I guess driving around, definitely not beating up an old man and taking, or not even taking his stuff, just beating him up. That doesn't seem to happen. Or was it a woman at the beginning? I can't even remember.
They pulled a knife on the man, yeah. What did you think? Like, I did like that scene, at least after that scene, when Jim's walking along drunk and he finds these toys. It felt to me kind of like post-apocalyptic in a way, like he's walking through like the ravages of the city.
Absolutely. And finds the mechanical monkey and just finds the one thing that he can play with and is like, oh, this is nice. Like, ignores kind of the wreckage of everything that is around because he's just so used to it, maybe.
Yeah. And also he doesn't have a cause, so maybe he's unaffected by things.
Yeah.
What did you think of like the general tone of the script?
Oh man, tone for me is one thing where I'm always like, okay, let's talk about this. Just wrapping my head around it. I'm going to be like light and serious. So like pulling a knife on an old man is very serious. The stuff that happens between Judy and her father is serious and seriously uncomfortable. And Plato also, his entire storyline is just very serious in nature, but then as a whole it's like pretty light, like the jokes that are made and just Jim himself kind of feels like just, you know, he's just trying to find some friends and trying to get in with the cool kids, and it's like a very young and light story.
Yeah, I felt there were those dark moments. I completely agree, but then I also felt at times that I was reading a Breakfast Club script.
Yes.
My favorite scene that happens like near the beginning, the precinct scene, and part of it is just because I felt so nostalgic for it, just because I've seen those kind of scenes in movies so often when I was younger, like 80s movies, that I felt nostalgic for that scene in other movies, that it affected me more than I think maybe the scene will when I actually watch it.
Specifically the Breakfast Club or just Breakfast Club type movies?
Breakfast Club type movies. So Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh yeah, and like 16 Candles, all those.
Yeah, like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, there's that scene with Charlie Sheen in the precinct, which I call to mind.
Oh, okay, for sure. Yeah, so that scene in the precinct, that's an introduction to 3 separate storylines, all at the same time, all dealing with a little bit of a rebellion for each of those characters. I thought that was so beautifully done and woven together, and in knowing the poster of the movie and knowing that James Dean is the star, I came into it being like, okay, this is his story, but the setup really felt like it was equal parts for all 3 of those characters, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, very true. I mean, we spend a good amount of time on each character. In fact, I think we get to Jim last of the 3, and we don't even spend the most amount of time on him, I think.
He seems to be just that constant that kind of comes in and out with the whistling and the humming, which annoys people and other people react to, but otherwise it's more on Judy and Plato and Ray trying to figure things out with everyone. So Plato's story gets set up at the beginning. He pulled a gun on an animal. What kind of animal was it? Was it a dog?
I think he might have killed the puppies.
Yeah, he killed puppies.
Yeah, I know.
Litter of puppies with a gun.
Okay, isn't there a rule in filmmaking where you don't kill a dog?
I mean, is it the save the cat rule that you're thinking of? It might be don't kill a dog for sure.
Yeah, no, this is different from Save the Cat. This is like, if you kill a dog, the audience is going to turn on you.
Oh, this does sound a little bit familiar.
Yeah, and so like start out with, yeah, this guy killed a bunch of dogs.
They didn't necessarily lose me right away, but where they lost me is when you just saw him at school with Jim the next day. And I was like, what?
It was weird. It made sense in what he needed, because he was looking for a father figure the entire time, right?
Yes.
To be fair, like, I guess he had a cause, like, he wanted something, right?
Yeah.
And so it's weird that he dies at the end because he had a cause. I would think that the moral of the film would have been that if you don't have a cause and you rebel without a cause, it's going to lead to bad consequences. But the person who had a cause ended up the worst for everything.
He had a cause, but he was going about fulfilling that cause in a backwards way. Like, there's no amount of steps that takes you from killing puppies to a death.
It's true.
You know, and there's no way that he could have predicted that there would be like a young man at the precinct where he was brought in that could fulfill that paternal need. So it's just like, I'm just doing this thing for some sort of attention because I'm not getting the attention I want. So, yeah, I feel it. Yes, he wants a father figure as much as Judy wants, you know, like a masculine love as well. They're all just kind of going about it the wrong way. Yeah. Or not going about it in any kind of real way. Like, I mean, kissing your father is one thing, back to Judy. But maybe just saying to your father, hey, I don't feel as if we have a good relationship and I want it to be better, you know. I don't know if those conversations were kind of had back in those times, but definitely just like a little bit of communication before going in for a smooch might be the way to go. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, it's very true. I think that's the issue in all movies. If everyone just communicated, there would be no problems ever. But yeah, no, you're totally right.
Ruined movies. I just like took them out of existence for communication. None of this happens because we all just spoke to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So, still at the precinct, what did you think of Ray?
I mean, he's likable. I think he's written that way. He's on everybody's side, and he listens to each of the kids, and he seems to want to help them as much as he can, which I think is really good. And, you know, if Plato had seen a father figure in him, which he probably should have, he might have actually ended up differently, because he acts the way a parent should be acting, the way none of the other parents, except I like Jim's father. But in general, Ray is communicative where the other parents aren't.
Wow. Yeah. I feel like we read two different characters. This is awesome.
Okay. What did you think about Ray?
I thought he was a dick in the way that he related to Judy. I mean, she was out for a walk. She didn't ask to be picked up by the cops. And though it's not explicitly said, it seems like she was picked up because they thought she might have something to do with the man who was stomped. And when it turns out that she was just out for a walk, it's like Ray is mad and decides not to help her.
Okay, yeah. I think that this is just my maleness coming through. I think I glossed over that a little bit. But yeah, I thought that they were implying that she was a prostitute.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But then, like, total honesty, I forgot about it, like, the next scene.
Right.
That's a fair criticism of him. What did you think about Jim's dad?
I liked Jim's dad. I mean, maybe because he reminds me of somebody I know. I don't know. Like, he's just, you know, that, like, he's a nice guy. He's just trying to contribute to the family in the best way that he can. And that seems to be possibly doing some more of the typically feminine roles in the household. But at the same time, like, those still need to be fulfilled. And so if it's not being done by the mother in Jim's case, who seems to be described pretty awfully, yeah, then, you know, somebody's got to step up. And I think that there's strength in that. I found it endearing. I liked him.
Yeah, I did too. I think that Jim's anger was mostly him just seeing himself in his father and not liking that his father wasn't standing up for himself. Jim didn't like that he wasn't standing up for himself, that he didn't have a cause.
Yeah.
And so maybe he saw that in his father as well and showed anger and resentment towards him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe he thought that that was the end result if he didn't rebel at this young age.
For sure.
So.
Did you like the foreshadowing in it? I thought there was a lot of foreshadowing.
Are we talking about maybe the planetarium scene or no?
Planetarium scene for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there I felt it was, yes, and heavy-handed there.
Very heavy-handed. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you hear this going on, you're just like, this is going to be the climax. This is where it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it'll be more subtle in the actual film. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited to see that come to screen, especially with like the lecturer saying, like, kind of introducing the characters in that, like, by way of the celestial stuff that he's talking about. Like, I was like, okay, this is a little bit cheese. I'm sure it'll be done with more grace, like, on screen. Because it's such a beloved movie, right? Like, yeah, there's no way that that's going to translate as heavy-handed as it does in the script.
Yeah, that's true.
So what other moments of foreshadowing did you think about?
The only other one that I wrote down was the wail of a siren is heard right after Judy gives over her number to Jim.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, like, there's going to be trouble.
Yes. I also... Oh my gosh, some of my notes. So I was just scrolling through my notes, and one of them is confirmed sociopath.
Plato? Yeah.
Yeah. Because earlier I had read, is he a sociopath? Cool. I don't remember exactly where it happens, but I like when Plato goes home and grabs the gun, and then the gun isn't talked about before. I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to kill Jim. He's going to shoot at Jim. That's what I thought as soon as the gun, and especially because in the next scene where you see him, he doesn't bring it out or anything. So I felt as if they were wanting us to forget that maybe he had it.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. I thought Jim was going to die at the end.
Me too.
They were like, okay, cool. Like, even in the last scene, they switch coats, right? Like, he takes Paul's coat, I think. Or, no, he gives his leather jacket to Paul. And so there would be at least some logic where people would think
Plato.
that... Yes. Sorry, Plato, yeah. So he gave his leather jacket to Plato. There'd be some logic to the police thinking that that was Jim. Yeah. Especially if he had kept the gun that he had, like, taken from Plato at one point. It's like they were setting everything up, even earlier in the script.
Well, the father says that too. Like, for a minute, that jacket, I thought, like he thought it was his son.
Yeah. I bet that at one draft of the script, Jim dies.
Oh, yeah, probably. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they were like, no, you...
James Dean has to live.
You already killed puppies, okay?
It's true.
Enough.
Yeah. So you have no sympathy for Plato, eh?
No, not really. I wasn't, like, excited that he died. I was just like, I felt as if he didn't get in trouble for the animal cruelty off the beginning, and then just, like, continued to be weirder and weirder as the script went on. And I was like, okay, something needs to be done about you. Like, somebody needs to have a conversation, or, like, maybe you need some disciplining or something. And I get that you're being raised by a caretaker and that your parents are absent and cool, but, like, yeah, just right from the beginning, why did the cops not, I don't know, charge you with anything?
Right.
Then they were kind of just like, oh yeah, you have this gun. Like, so they know that he shot these puppies with this gun, and then somehow he still has the gun later for him to use it and shoot Jim, or try to shoot Jim.
I wonder, even today, would they have taken the gun? Maybe it would be one cop to another, depending on how they felt about the Second Amendment, if they would take that gun from the kid or not.
Yeah, because he's a minor, right?
He's a minor, so he's not going to be charged with anything, and...
Really?
I mean, I don't know.
You can have a juvenile record.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But I think depending on the cop that you got, that they would just get off.
Interesting. I feel like it can't be that children are allowed to have weapons. Because
I don't think it's like all the kids are running around with guns or anything. But I think it's one of those rare situations that if it came up and you had I'll just say hickish enough cop.
Right.
That he'd be like, I played with guns when I was a kid. Try not to shoot animals again, okay? And then go bring your gun back to your dad.
Back in my day, we shot cans.
Exactly. So what about script to film? Well, like, what are you most excited to see?
I made a note that the planetarium scene is what I'm most excited to see. For sure. Just because I'm like, this is cheese. in like such a great way. So I'm excited. And then also the stuff in the mansion. I mean, they peppered in Judy's interest for Jim very nicely. But then Buzz dies and she's in love with Jim immediately. So I also want to see how Judy, Jim, and Plato like kind of interact with each other in the mansion following Buzz's death. Just to see if that love is organic as I want it to be, or if it's just like, well, he's gone. Might as well do this guy.
Yeah, it might be another issue of males writing women.
Could be.
Yeah, whereas like obviously this woman wanted a guy to love, and now she's got one, so she's happy.
What about you?
I like it has to be the precinct scene, like just from the nostalgia factor and all the setup. That's definitely what I'm most excited about. And I'm also excited, like, this isn't a scene, but I'm also just excited to see how the father is played in the movie. Oh, and also, I'm excited because I feel it's going to be so cheesy. That scene where Buzz goes off the cliff, the way it was described, it looks like it's going to be a shot of the car, and then a shot inside the car of Buzz's face as he, like, does, like, a shocked face, and then hits the water, and then death.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a moment, like, of even acceptance in there a little bit or something? It's like he was stuck, and then he was like, oh, well, okay, this is how I go. I did this to myself.
Yeah, exactly. So just to see how that plays out is going to be great.
I wonder if it's also exactly as written. Like, I'm curious to see if there's going to be anything that's not on the page here in it. Because all the camera directions are in it as well, I wonder if it's just directly what this is on screen.
Okay. Do you think there maybe would be any like extra dialogue, even an extra scene?
I don't know that necessarily other dialogue, but yeah, an extra scene. I just want Plato's story at the precinct to be finished. I want him to get just desserts for her. But I guess if he did, then the story wouldn't have been able to go the way that it did, with him still having access to the gun, and then even him being friends with Jim. Likely Jim would have steered clear of him more so than. What do you think about Jim being so open to Plato as a friend and defensive of him?
I didn't understand it. I didn't understand him running after Plato when the cops are going after Plato. Like, he would be able to do something. Like, I get it that he wanted something to do, and like he found the purpose, he's going to help Plato. I get that, but at the same time, like, the cops are going after Plato. They're the best ones equipped to help Plato, to like calm him down, like talk him down and solve the problem. You running after it is just going to heighten everything.
Exactly. And bringing Judy too. There's a gun involved. You're like, come with me. No.
Not only bringing Judy, but like convincing her that she's needed for this situation.
Yeah.
Like, Plato needs me, and I think Plato needs you too.
Yeah.
Let's go. Come on, man. Delusions of grandeur. You're a teenager.
Yeah.
I guess
Judy, shame on you for trusting like the next man that you love and just doing whatever he says. Like, stop. Okay.
Yeah.
Look out for yourself a little bit. Apart from the theme of being a rebel without a cause and also wanting love from a parent, did you think that there was any other main theme throughout the script, or maybe like a B-story theme or anything like that?
Like, off the top of my head, I didn't catch anything. Did you notice anything in it?
I guess I did ask that question because I had the answer to it. There's just one line that Jim says. He says, nobody talks to children. They just tell them one thing and mean another. And I was like, ooh, message. Nobody talks to children. They just tell them one thing and mean another. Yeah. So maybe part of the rebellion of this story is that, like I said earlier, there's no communication, and if there was, none of this would have happened. You know, nobody's talking to these children. They're all just telling them what to do, and I don't know, not really following through with the best intentions for anybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that goes back to just like, this is basically a movie about being a teenager and growing up a little bit, and maybe even taking on some responsibility for other people and for your actions. Because by the end, at least I guess Jim's kind of running away, but he comes back. He's not running away from the cops at the end. He goes to help his friend, whereas before he's like, I just have to do these things and then I'm running away. Like, it's all about being a teenager. Their heightened emotions, the fact that Judy and Jim can fall in love after knowing each other for like 2-3 days. That's what being a teenager is. That's like the rebellion against the parents, and like the parents not understanding anything. That's being a teenager. Like, killing puppies, apparently being a teenager.
Because as we established, that's the only time you can get away with it.
That's
and having
the only
antenna not be
time.
charged.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta get that in before that 18th birthday.
You just need that hick cop to come along.
Yeah.
I would like to know what happened. Like, the Buzz thing is never resolved. Like, is anyone going to take responsibility for his death? Moose and Goon, I guess they were picked up by the cops at the mansion. They're kind of like, we never talk about them again after Plato dies. What responsibility do they have for everything?
Well, they definitely need to be picked up for the man that was, stomped in the opening, but I don't think that they really have any part in Buzz's death. Like, I mean, I wouldn't even say that Jim is an accomplice. Like, Buzz was driving his own car.
You don't think, like, if you were in a game of chicken with somebody, do you not think that you would at least get in trouble? Could you not be like an accessory to his death in some way? I don't know what it would be called, but not like involuntary manslaughter or anything. In a way, by participating, aren't you like egging him on to take this challenge?
I mean, let's use the bridge one. So if two people were going to commit suicide together and they both jump off this bridge and one of them lives, the person who lives isn't going to be charged with the murder of the person who died. The person who died committed suicide.
No, maybe I see, at least in justice-wise, maybe they wouldn't be committed either way. Maybe they wouldn't be charged either way, but I see a difference between two people going to a bridge to commit suicide and meeting there and then one of them dying and one of them not, and two people being at a bridge and egging each other on to jump off the bridge, not wanting to commit suicide, but egging each other on and then one of them dying as a result, which I think is more like what the car thing was. Whereas like Jim could have walked away. He didn't have to go there and race that car and Buzz would have been alive. So at least justice-wise, whether he's culpable legally or not, I think justice-wise, he is responsible for Buzz's death.
I think that the only way that he would be responsible is if he was in Buzz's car.
Okay.
Like egging him on that way and somehow did not die in that crash. Then like everyone who says like, man, I wish you would just die already. Like any kind of flippant word like that is like partially responsible because you put the possibility of death in front of them, even though that they are responsible for every action they take moving forward.
I think it's not like 1-to-1. I think there's a difference of degrees, but
yeah, 100%.
Anything else that you noticed about the script that you wanted to talk about?
I thought that Jim was an interesting character because, again, just from knowing the poster of the movie and from knowing a little bit about James Dean just as like that kind of tough character, I thought that he was going to be more of the Buzz role in this movie. I thought I was going to be watching or reading a script about, like a Buzz type character, like the gang leader. And I just thought that the character that was read was really interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, like he was wanting to be in with the cool kids. So he was like a bit of a, not loner necessarily, but just like an awkward teenager trying to figure things out. And I thought that he was equal parts tough later in the script as he was vulnerable and awkward and uncomfortable at the beginning of the script, which made me just like root for him even more.
Yeah, I thought he was a very sympathetic character. Yeah, that whole thing with Buzz, like, I don't understand. I guess that's the point of the movie, that no one had a cause, or most people didn't have a cause, but like Buzz seems to just hate Jim just for the sake of it. Like, I could understand a classic movie trope if it was like Buzz hates Jim because Jim and Judy are together, and maybe that kind of seems a little the implication at the beginning, but Buzz also just seems to just not like Jim.
Which is a trope that does happen, though, and like the new kid is never taken in with open arms right away from the popular kids, if that's what Buzz and his crew is.
Yeah, true.
Okay, sweet. So now I guess we should watch the movie and discuss further.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how that precinct scene and the planetarium scene comes out.
Yes. And Judy and her father, oh no.
Pseudo-incest before incest was cool with Game of Thrones.
Amazing. All right, to be continued.
Okay, Beck, we're going to do a little bit of a mid-recording segment here where we're going to ask questions just about films in general and what our preferences are and about life. Who knows? It'll be all film-centric, though. This week, we're going to ask you what your favorite film is.
My favorite film is Mr. Holland's Opus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the Richard Dreyfuss. Yeah. Why do you like Mr. Holland's Opus?
It's definitely attached to a memory with our father. So I remember watching it with him. And there's a scene in the movie where there's a young girl and she's struggling to play the clarinet and she can't do it. Then the music teacher says, "What's your favorite thing about yourself?" And she says, "My hair." And he's like, "Why?" And she's like, "My dad always says it reminds him of the sunset." And then Dreyfuss goes, "Play the sunset." And then she's able to play the clarinet. And so because it's already linked to dad, and then there's this emotional moment that is between a daughter and a father about their relationship in it, it's like, oh, heartstrings. Yeah. And then also, obviously, it's about a music teacher, so music is going to be important, but it spans so many decades that you really get a history of music throughout it. And I love music, and I love when music is like another character in a film.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. All right. Mr. Holland's Elvis. Very great choice. All right. Awesome. Well, then let's get back to our film of the week. Okay. So we've read the script and we've both watched Rebel Without a Cause. And we can compare the script to the film, see what the differences are, and see ultimately which one we liked better. So yeah, how about we start with just your overall feel for the film?
I really enjoyed the film. I felt a disconnect between what they were going through and what I was going through in high school, though, which I, on the page, didn't necessarily notice as much as I did when I saw it. I was like, oh, like races at a ravine off a cliff, and like people just have access to guns, and when you don't have friends, you find those guns and shoot at people. Those sort of things were very different than what my high school experience was. Yeah. So in that, I was like, this is a different time, or possibly the same time, just not in the right place. But I still enjoyed it.
I also felt a big disconnect. I mean, like we were saying before, maybe we lived a certain sheltered style of life in some ways.
Yeah.
But I do feel like you said, the racing cars, I don't know why anyone would do that, but good for them, good for that time, I guess.
They stole those cars. It's not like they were cars that they're like, oh, we're going to drive our cars to the cliff. No, we're going to go and steal cars, bring them here, and then possibly kill ourselves.
Yeah, that's it, eh? And earlier, they're just like, we're going to have a casual knife fight in front of the planetarium. Why not? This is what we do. Give them a knife.
Yeah. Somebody's got one. We all have one. Somebody throw them a knife.
Yeah, exactly. I went to St. Pat's, and that in some ways, at least at the time, it had a reputation. I think a lot of the reputation was overblown.
For sure.
There was a knifing at one point outside of the school by one of the kids who went to St. Pat's, who I knew and who I always got along with, but unfortunately he got into some trouble and he knifed somebody, and that was the worst thing that happened. It was so random and so out there, but in the movie it's just like I said, casual knife fight. This is a Saturday thing.
Maybe the one at St. Pat's would have been more casual if that guy had just been like, hey, somebody throw this guy a knife. We all have one. Come on.
We were all bringing knives to school at the time, so.
Even just his description of what they were going to do. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but he was like, yeah, just like a stick, not like a slice or whatever. Like, we're not like cutting each other up. You just want to like jab and then pull out. You're like, what?
It's okay. It sounds worse. Right?
It does. It does sound worse.
I'm going to poke a bunch of holes in you instead of just like slicing a little line on your skin. Wow. Okay. This kind of brings me to something I wanted to say is I really liked Buzz.
Yes.
He's probably my favorite character.
Yes. Charming. Yeah. No, I really enjoyed him too. But I think that's because of a difference between the script and the movie in that they took out the opening scene. Did you notice that?
I noticed that. That pissed me off.
Yeah. So in that opening scene, they set up Buzz and his relationship to the other characters, and they're evil when they jump that man with all the bags of groceries and such. And then in the movie, you just see Jim with the toy monkey, and there's no like, where did this come from or anything like that. He just like is walking and happens upon a monkey and then puts that monkey to bed, which was also not in the script and super adorable.
Really? You really like that? I did not like that scene at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, for one, I didn't like the music.
Okay.
I know it's from that time. They had those it was a voice singing, right? Kind of just doing hitting notes. That was of that time, but I just didn't care for him lying down, tucking in the monkey. I didn't know what was the point, and I just didn't care for it.
Okay. Maybe that's like the 2 classes I've spent in acting coming through, me thinking that I've learned something from those, being like, oh, that's like a moment that was a choice that he made in that moment. He was just following his impulses, and he saw this monkey and he saw some paper and he decided to tuck it in, and that wasn't the director saying anything. And I'm like, oh my God, James Dean, you're a genius, and this is why, because you tuck in monkeys.
Yeah, if only you tucked in more monkeys back.
If only I tucked in more monkeys.
Yeah, no, maybe you're right. I don't have that perspective on it. I only felt disappointed that they didn't have that starting off with Buzz and the gang.
Yeah.
So I was going to hate that starting scene from the get-go.
Okay, yeah. And in the car, when Buzz picks up Judy and they first meet Jim, they reference the trouble. Like, Judy and Buzz talk about it really quick, and then he just kind of like shrugs it off. And there's like no answers as to what the trouble was that he was in prior to that moment. That is now cut out of the script and not in the movie. So yeah, like if you weren't paying attention, you would have never really known that maybe Buzz was a troublemaker at all. Because I mean, before the knife and after our introduction to him, the like meanest thing he does is like that crab impression. And then
true.
Like doesn't laugh at Jim's moo.
The moo comes out of nowhere a little bit, right?
Does it? I mean, Buzz impersonated a crab, and then Jim impersonated a cow, which is what they were taking from the planetarium, like visuals, right?
No, it's true. And I'm just talking, like, it's very clear in the movie he's trying his hardest.
Yeah, very true. It seemed too like Buzz didn't really want to engage in this stuff either.
You know, I think we're coming to the conclusion that Buzz was the real hero of this film.
He was the real hero. He was the real hero. Oh, there was one scene that I thought was funny. It was just in terms of like blocking of the characters. It was at the race. Right after Plato talks to Jim, you see a shot of Buzz and his friends at the car, and Buzz's car door is on the driver's side is open, and he's standing behind it, and then he walks out of scene, and as soon as he's off screen, Judy pops up from behind his open door. And I'm like, what were you doing down there? It was just such a weird, like, blocking, like, why are you keeping Judy a secret if she's not doing something suspicious?
Yeah, I don't remember it. I didn't catch that. That's funny.
Yeah. You were very much looking forward to seeing Buzz's death. How did you feel about that?
I think it came off the way it was written in the script. He had fear, right? I don't think did you see Acceptance?
No.
No, neither did I.
His scream, though, was, like, real cheesy.
Was it that classic scream? Is it like the Wilhelm scream or something like that?
That is a reference I do not know. Quite possibly.
Yeah, I'm probably not saying the right name, but there's this classic scream that they use in every film, from Star Wars to Lord of the Rings to every action movie in between. I'll try to impersonate it, and I'm going to apologize. We can cut this if it sounds really bad. It's like, that was horrible. I'm sorry. I don't even know why I did that. Look it up, though. You can try to just Google, like, classic scream after this, and you'll find it.
In conclusion, Buzz is the real hero.
Buzz is the real hero. How did you like...
It just ends after his death.
If only. The movie was actually a little long. What didn't you feel?
Yeah.
Like, I think his death happens before even the halfway mark, and then it keeps going on. I was never bored, but I did feel like, oh, we're already at Buzz's death. The thing's going to end soon, but it didn't. How did you like the other characters? How do you like Judy?
I like Judy. I thought the performance was great from the actress. When she got the news that Ray was going to call her father in the precinct in our introduction to her going from upset about what her father said to being happy that he was now going to be called, I thought that was like beautifully done. There was like one nitpicky thing in that scene, though. Judy talks about how her dad rubbed the lipstick off her lips, and that he rubbed so hard she thought her lips were going to be rubbed off. And right after that, she ran out of the house and went for a walk and then was picked up. Meanwhile, while she's telling this story, she has like immaculate red lipstick. And I'm just like, okay, if that was rubbed off, you would look like a clown right now. And there would be no saving that without some sort of like chemical. Like water is not going to save you.
Right. No, I actually noticed that too. As she's saying that, you're like looking at her lips because like focused in on her face. Like, those lips look great, lady.
Yeah. How did you feel about Judy?
I completely agree with you. That emotion, like I noted the exact same thing with her introduction and her emotion there. It really sells a problem that seemed unimportant in the script, where her need for attention, it sold that as if it was a real problem. It gave it depth. Yeah. So she was great.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice though, and I think I noticed it in the script, but because the script it's so much longer to read the script than it is to watch the movie, is the fact that this all happens literally over one day.
I didn't know that until I watched the movie.
So she literally falls in love with this guy. Like she's with a guy, the guy dies, she falls in love, and Plato also dies. All this happens in one day. That seems impossible, but
yeah. Also, I know we talked a lot about Plato and the conversation about the script. So just to call back on that, Plato got arrested for killing puppies, in case anyone forgot about that fact. Or not even arrested, really. He just got a stern talking to about shooting puppies with a gun. And then that gun presumably was not taken away from him because it shows back up in his mother's room, which is where he retrieved it from the first time. So for that to all happen in a day as well is pretty fast, which says something to me about his caretaker, who doesn't have any development in the film or in the script at all. But she came with him to the precinct, I guess took the gun back from him. If the cops, we'll just assume that the cops took the gun from Plato and then they gave it back to his caretaker. So she takes the gun, brings it back to the house, and is like, okay, I'm just going to put this back here. He's definitely not going to do this again. That's fine. I'm just going to put this back. I just thought it was strange. I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much that there was like a different hiding place or some thought put into it. Or maybe even just the gun being held overnight and dusted for something.
What would they need to dust for, though? They knew the kid, like they had the kid. They knew what he did. He wasn't denying it.
Doesn't it get it put into a bag for evidence or something? Stop giving the gun back, okay?
You're right. They should have taken the gun. I'm completely on board for that. I want to tell you my notes for Plato. Yeah. Basically, I'm just watching the movie, and then every now and then I write down, Plato's got some crazy eyes. You can see the way he looks, the way he moves, the way he talks. He is so crazy.
I also have notes like that. I just put Plato creepy as fuck, as suspected.
Oh, man.
On a Plato cray-cray note, in the movie, Judy has a line when she's talking to Jim about how good of a guy Jim is. She's saying, like, you were Plato's friend when nobody wanted to be his friend, and that makes you a strong person. And I was like, what? Are you strong for being someone's friend when nobody wants to be? I don't know if that gives you strength. I mean, you like who you like. Liking somebody just because nobody else likes them doesn't make you strong. It makes you sympathetic, possibly in a bad way, because you're only pitying them.
Yeah, I guess you could see it as bad because of the pity. I disagree in the sentiment, though, because I remember high school in general, when there was that kid who just no one liked.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's not better because he likes Plato where no one else likes him. I think what she's trying to say is, you're willing to be friends with him even though he is crazy and creepy and a loser. And so you're a better person.
Amazing. So you wouldn't be friends with Plato at school, is what you're saying?
Probably not. No.
You're not strong enough.
Hopefully not after the puppy killings.
Right?
That would really throw me off a little bit.
Yeah. Another Plato scene which I thought was interesting, this time Plato not being the bad guy in it, is when Plato is running away from the cops. So the cop chases him, and the cop yells, halt, and then fires his gun immediately after it. Plato.
You noticed that too, yes.
Yeah. And then he catches up to him. Plato has broken into the planetarium, and the cop is calling to him from outside, and he says, come out, son. You're making it tough on yourself. You haven't killed anybody yet. And I was like, then why are you shooting at him? Like, this is excessive means.
Yeah. Yeah. And plus, the cop doesn't know if Plato killed anyone yet. And we never find out realistically because he shot that kid.
Oh, he did. Yeah, true.
And I guess, like, we can all assume this is fairy tale movie scene, so we can all assume the kid's fine and everything, but he shot him. He at least has a bullet wound. Yeah, those scenes were funny.
I loved how quickly the shot came right after that. It was like, halt, fire. I'm like, whoa, okay. It escalated just as fast as Plato pulling a gun in the first place, so I guess that makes sense.
Everyone's just on edge back in that time. They were just more alive than we are today back.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Something that they added in the movie, that Judy's compact. So when they're at the precinct, Judy has a compact mirror, makeup, I can't really remember, and she leaves it on the chair after she leaves her discussion with Ray, and then Jim gets in that seat and he picks it up and he like goes back to it a few times throughout the movie. And that's not in the script at all. She never left anything behind. Maybe just to give like a little bit more bonding on his side. Like, yes, he sees her from afar and he's intrigued by her. And now, oh, this sounds creepy. Now he has something of hers and he's like kind of become obsessed with her.
It came off as creepy to me. Did he hold it up to his face at one point?
He did, right before the race.
Okay, because when you do stuff like that, I just like, I'm thinking you're going to smell it or something, and just like, that's creepy.
How did you feel about him asking, so after Buzz gets the sand on his hand and then he gets a kiss, how did you feel about Jim being like, hey Judy, me too?
And then her not understanding, but like probably understanding, but yeah.
He's like, the sand.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of the sand? Is that a good measure?
I think it was more to like the same way in gymnastics, you would put chalk on your hand to have better grip.
Oh, okay, for sure. So one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about was Jim's relationship to his father. I thought that without his like dramatic reaction to his father, his dad would have actually come off as a good guy, and still kind of does come off to a really good guy to me. It's just that Jim is so adamant that he's unimpressed with his father over and over and over again, that you're like, oh, okay, maybe he's not that great of a dad?
Yeah, I never had the impression that he was a bad guy in any way. He seemed to be working, doing whatever he could to help out with the family, with his wife. I mean, even his wife and his mother, I mean, they nag a little bit, but they never do anything horrible. Jim he's just a teenager and he wants to do things, seemingly. He just wants to prove himself. And I even felt, this is getting a little off track, but I didn't understand the point of him needing to go do this race, because he kind of already proved himself in the fight. What is he trying to prove by going to the car race now? He kind of won the fight, or at least he stood up for himself. What would racing prove now?
Absolutely. He did win the fight. He took Buzz's weapon away, right?
So he won that fight. He's already proved he's better than Buzz.
Yeah.
I mean, no one is better than Buzz, but he proved that he's stronger or better fighter.
Just driven by that need to be in that friend group, possibly. Like, after winning that, he saw that he still wasn't accepted by them. So maybe if he won this car race, he'd finally be in.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense to me. And he even got some notice from Buzz. Buzz told him that he liked him.
Yeah.
When they actually introduced themselves to each other. Yeah, beyond that, was there anything else you really liked or didn't like about the film?
There's just that moment with Jim's parents where he introduces Judy. He makes the introduction and then Jim and Judy walk away and his parents both turn to each other and they're like, and then they smile and they stop their sentence. And I'm like, what is the end of that sentence? Is it like he's got a girlfriend, or he's finally happy, or he's like, what were you gonna say? Like, I just want to know.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I think it was something along those lines, that sentiment that, yeah, he's happy. Yeah. We're all happy now. Plato died.
We're all standing right next to a dead body and very
yes. Yes, it's like no consequences mean anything in this movie. It's just like, this happened and now we're just going to go on with our lives. Yeah, I have no idea what they were going to say, what their feelings were about the relationship, but I think they were happy about it. And like her being in love with Jim, that still gives me a weird note that was the solution to all her problems. She just needed a man in her life. But I guess that's the way they decided to end it. Can I derail this a bit by just noting Judy's father? He has a line. It's when Jim calls him So I want this to be a meme because Judy's father takes the call when Jim calls from the police station, and his lines are, "Who? Jim who? I never heard of ya." And he slams the phone down. I just think that could be memed really well. There's like random people calling. Yeah, that's
Screen
fair.
grab.
That's fair. Yeah. Also, here's one thing. With just timeline thing, this is nitpicking for the film and probably the script as well. But I think more the film. In the film, Buzz introduces himself to Jim for the first time at the car racing scene, right?
Yes.
And at that scene, Buzz asks what Jim's name is. And Jim tells him. Later on, when Judy and Jim are kind of falling in love right after Buzz has died, a dedication comes on from Buzz for Jim.
Yes.
So either Buzz knew Jim's name already, or Buzz dedicated this song mid-race.
I always thought that was Buzz's friends doing that to taunt Jim.
Okay, yeah. If that was the case, they made no indication of that.
No, there was no indication of that at all. But I was just like, oh, like his friends don't want Jim to say anything. So they're like sending him messages from Buzz from beyond the grave.
I hope that's the case. I hope that is the explanation because none could be better than that. We both said what our favorite scenes in the script were. How did the planetarium scene come off for you?
It wasn't as cheesy as it was in the script for me because I started reading in the script and I decided it was going to be ham. So as I kept reading through it, the visuals that I put in my head were just like, this is corny. And so I just kept like hamming it up in what I was seeing. And then when I saw it on screen, I was like, oh, this actually isn't too cheesy. The only part that was very cheesy for me was when, I wish I had a better word than cheesy, but was when Buzz actually did the crab thing. He like walked across his friend and like was like, I'm a crab. I don't know.
Buzz is just showing his charm again.
But otherwise, I thought that scene was great.
I thought it flowed well.
How about you?
The police station scene, I was horribly disappointed by it.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think it is everything that it was supposed to be. And I was just envisioning something different when I was reading it. No part of it was Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It just seemed like a police station from that time, which was disappointing for me. But the scene, it flowed pretty well. They had each individual, like Judy getting interviewed, Jim getting interviewed, and Plato getting interviewed. I think that they didn't do, you know how in the script it keeps going back to Jim?
Yes.
I don't think they did that as much.
They did not, no.
And I think that tied everything together better than it was tied together in the film.
Yes, absolutely. There was one Jim and, so Jim says, if my father had the guts to just knock her out once, then maybe his mom would lay off. It came off so natural, and then they just kind of breezed by it. Like, Ray just didn't really react to it. It just kind of kept going. And then the climax of that discussion with Ray was Jim being called chicken. And being called chicken is like a really terrible thing, and that's what got him into trouble in the previous town that he lived in. So I just thought that was an interesting dichotomy, like next to each other. It's like being called chicken is the worst thing that could happen, and that makes us move towns, but hitting your wife is gonna make her like start respecting you.
Yeah.
Just like next to each other. I was like, I don't know, sticks and stones, Jim.
No, you're totally right. Jim is a flawed guy. I don't think he's changed at all. At the end, he's just won, right?
Yes, it's
true.
Like
Buzz has died. He tried to save Plato, but Plato died, and he has Judy now, so happy ending.
Yeah.
But say tomorrow comes along and somebody else calls him chicken. Is there going to be some other drama? Is somebody else going to die? Or is he satisfied now?
As long as Judy doesn't leave him, I think they'll possibly be okay. I hope.
So. Yeah.
He did say after they got together that they were never going to be lonely again. So it did seem like they were in it after those maybe 4 hours total that they've spent together for the long haul.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, if anyone knows anything about love, it's a 16-year-old, right?
It's true.
Okay. So this is the time to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which one do you think is better, the script or the film?
Ooh. I liked the script more. And that's because of what it told me about Buzz's backstory. And yeah, really just that, because I found that was such an important piece to cut out of the film.
I am with you. I preferred the script. There's a subtlety to the script that, it's not in all writing, but the thing that I so love about writing and novels is that you're imagining how things will be, and there's not always that subtlety in the filming, and plus it doesn't always live up to what you imagine it to be. Now, instead of my vision of what this movie is, I'm getting this other person's vision of what the script is, and so I preferred the script as well.
Amazing. Okay, so we agree on our first one.
Yes. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Beck. All right. We will see you next pick.
Yes, Seven Samurai.
Yeah, Seven Samurai. This was my pick.
Yes, okay. So we'll talk then.
Sounds good. Bye.